Thank you for joining the Prosperous Sellers Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Yates, CEO of Prime Guidance, and I've got a special guest, Bradley Sutton with Helium 10. Welcome, Bradley.
Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's nice having a legend as yourself on the podcast. It's pretty awesome. I'm sure a lot of people know your face and your name, and you always have some amazing things to share. So I'm really excited about this episode.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are and how you got where you're at? I think it'd be interesting for people to understand your journey, and then also those that don't know, have a better understanding of who you are.
Yeah, I've been doing like e-commerce for over 25 years. Started like in 99 with a company that dealt with like the Fast and Furious kind of car parts for Korean cars. And then been off and on in e-commerce since then, and started getting into Amazon like in the mid 2010s, where with one of the companies actually that I was with that dates back to those Fast and Furious days, where they were doing cell phone cases, and then worked a little bit with them, and then kind of like didn't know too much about Amazon, and so went to a conference in 2016, I think it was, about Amazon in Chicago, and kind of like changed my career trajectory. I was like, oh yeah, Amazon is definitely the space I want to be in. And I just dedicated like 6 months to like trying to become an expert in certain things like keyword rank and launch and stuff like that. And then instead of actually launching my own business at the time, I became a consultant for Amazon sellers, and that's how I got on the radar of Helium 10 back in like about 2018, where I was using Helium 10 and was all in their Facebook groups and stuff, as known as the loudmouth person who's always arguing with everybody when they're saying wrong things. And then the founder of Helium 10 is like, "Who's this guy? Oh wow, look at that! He's like only an hour and a half away from us." And they invited me up to hang out, and then gave up being a consultant, started working full time for Helium 10. And it was actually after I joined Helium 10 is when I started launching my own products, because I was like, all right, if I'm going to be in any kind of educational role here, I have to be in the game. And so that's when I started launching my own products. And so I've probably launched, between the consultants and my own consultancy and my own products, about 500-600 products by now.
Wow. I know you famously came up with the coffin items. Tell us how that got started, and like, just where did your mind go? How did you find that category and think to launch those items?
Yeah, that's all documented in this case study we did called Project X on YouTube. And my co-host and we were like live, while we were recording, browsing through like Etsy and Pinterest. And if you look back at the videos, I think it was like, we weren't just like, oh, we just like hopped right into coffin shelf. We were looking at something adjacent, like, I forgot what it was, like skull decor or Halloween accessories or something. And then on, not even on Amazon, not even on Helium 10, we had found through Pinterest and these other websites some coffin shelves. We're like, oh, that looks interesting. And then from there we went to Amazon. I was like, oh, there's like one dude who had coffin shelves at the time, and we could see that he was out of stock like 80% of the year. But when he would be in stock, he'd be moving some pretty big numbers. And so we're like, hey, this is a pretty good niche um to get in, and that's how we launched that brand. It's still same exact product selling to this day, and it's now expanded to like bat shaped bath mats and other kinds of spooky stuff. And at the same case study, we launched like a kitchen kind of like accessories brand, like with egg trays and stuff like that, and even those are still selling to this day. But yeah, we wanted to show people that you can start from scratch and do it and launch a couple brands. And we actually started like 4, and then we whittled it down. Like the other 2 are kind of like failures. We never actually launched it. We just had some ideas. I remember one was like a burrito blanket or something like that. But we're like, nah, this looks too saturated. But we wanted to give a very realistic idea for people to show that anybody can launch a product from scratch on Amazon.
How do you think it looks today versus when you launched those products? Like, what are the key things that have changed, and what advice do you have for yourself? I guess if you were to start over in this day and age versus when you started.
Well, I'm going to be actually working on kind of like a Project X season 2 this year, to just show people that, hey, it still can be done. Is the
Mhm.
path exactly the same? Probably not. No. There's a lot more competition out there, especially coming out of China,
Yeah.
where the sellers are a lot faster than they used to be. 5, 10 years ago, as far as jumping on trends and things. So you have like
Yeah.
a limited kind of like window where you see some new trend, but at the same time, certain things that weren't important then are important now, like branding wasn't that much important, your packaging and
Mhm.
how amazing your creatives was. I mean, those were always good, but it wasn't like deal breakers. Nowadays, they're kind of like deal breakers. And so if you have a good strategy for stuff like that, it's something that can gives you a right to win and like a competitive advantage over the other sellers who are just still kind of just like, slapping labels on brown boxes and just copycatting, products.
Yeah.
I think the general path is still very similar. Like, hey, use metrics in Helium 10 and other, you know, data points that Amazon gives that can show you what is high demand, but low or poor competition. Like that was what it was in 2015. That's what it is in 2025. Where you can like get in there without having to drain your pockets of, with too much advertising and stuff. And so that part is the same, but then like how much you have to invest and how you consider your profit margins and how you set up your listings and branding and stuff. That's what I think is different now than before.
And I think the the differentiation matters a lot more now. Like you said, a lot of times in the past, they would just emulate a product that's doing well, slap a different brand on it, it would potentially succeed. Nowadays, it's hard to have a Me Too product, right? You've got to have
Yeah.
something that has some differentiation, some improvements, and allows you to compete head to head because you're probably not going to win against a Chinese seller selling factory direct, and they can win on price every day because they're cutting out the middleman. So I think an important thing for people to remember because I see it to this day, too many people still interested in developing a Me Too product that doesn't really have any substantial benefit to the consumer versus what the current assortment is.
Yep. Yep. Another thing that's changed, I think, is the importance of going multi-channel, multi-platform. You
Yeah.
could before be just selling in Amazon USA, you'd be fine. But no, you should be selling in Amazon Germany and Amazon, Japan if you can, Amazon UAE. You should be selling on Walmart. You should be selling on TikTok Shop. You should have your own website like a Shopify channel. These are things that you like 90% you would almost say, nah, you're good without it, like 5, 10 years ago. But now it's kind of like, hey, if you're serious about, growing a sustainable business, you've got to be on multiple platforms. So that's another thing I think that's changed in the past few years.
Yeah, I like to say, build a brand. Don't become an Amazon seller. Build a brand that you can sell across multiple platforms where your customers are spending their time and money. If your customers are there, you should be there. And every channel has its own unique benefit, its own unique customer base. So, for example, Walmart is not going to be nearly the size of Amazon, but it's still a relevant category where a certain percentage of the population is shopping. You want to be there, international markets, as you mentioned. And that allows you to build a brand that's not so dependent on one channel. So if your account gets suspended or something, it's not going to put you out of business, perhaps, and allows you to truly develop a brand that has legs and meaningful growth opportunity outside of just participating in one channel that's kind of giving you a free ride.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What do you think as far as your diversification? What was your what were the things that you did first? Did you go to Walmart first and then international? Did you go to international and then
I
Walmart?
did Walmart first just because that was a few years ago and there was no such thing as TikTok Shop.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I would have to say like TikTok Shop is the number one no brainer, even
Yeah.
before expansion to other Amazon marketplaces. There are certain things that, like it's cool that if you expand to other Amazon marketplaces, you get to keep reviews and things like that. But outside of Amazon, there's stuff you gotta like line up legality wise, like VAT
Yeah.
and business entities and export and import and certifications that make it a little bit more difficult. But if you're selling in Amazon USA and you're are American or have like somebody who has a American social security number, it's just like a no-brainer. I mean, you could literally get set up in like 24 hours. The hardest part is probably setting up your TikTok or getting approved for it being on TikTok. That's like you can get approved in like 24 hours or 48 hours. But then
Mhm.
after that, obviously Helium 10 has a whole bunch of tools that are available for that, where you just click a button and then all your Amazon listings are migrated to TikTok Shop, but not just copied and pasted. Maybe the images are, but you use AI to not translate, but like kind of like put what is the best practice for TikTok. Like, there's no bullet points on TikTok, for example. It's not
Yeah.
an identical listing. And then after that, you don't even have to have your own inventory. You can connect it, again with Helium 10 to your MCF, your FBA inventory. So you don't have your own
Mhm.
warehouse and you don't want to ship your own stuff, or you don't want to send to Fulfill by TikTok without knowing if it's going to work out. We'll just connect it in like 5 minutes to your MCF, and that's going to fulfill your orders. And then 5 minutes later, you could have 300 messages sent out to influencers who are relevant to you on TikTok to start making videos of your product. And so, since it's so easy to do that, for me, TikTok is the number two that ones should
Yep.
be selling on. And then I think Walmart still is number
Mhm.
three. And then Walmart, you might see a bigger, I don't want to say rush, but just a few weeks ago, they kind of changed the rules where before, if you were caught using Amazon fulfillment for your Walmart orders, you'll get suspended on Walmart, and vice versa.
Mhm.
The Walmart changed the rules about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, where now you can use Amazon MCF to fulfill. So I think that's going to lower the barrier of entry for a lot of the people who don't have their own warehouses and stuff like that, where now they can get set up on Walmart pretty fast too.
Yeah, I think that was really nice to see. Now that these channels are playing nicer together, with TikTok and Walmart and so forth, as it relates to Amazon. I would still caution that you're probably not going to be as well positioned on Walmart using multi-channel fulfillment, which doesn't have as fast of shipping time and the commitment that WFS has with their 2-day um, Walmart Plus badging. But it's still a huge improvement over standard shipping, which is probably what they're doing today in a lot of cases, and that's not a path for success on Walmart. They're very, very in tune with their listing quality score, and shipping speed is one of the bigger pieces of that listing quality score, right?
Yeah, because it's like it goes back to the inventory. Like there are some products on Walmart you can sell as much. I mean, and TikTok for that matter, you can
Mhm.
sell as much on that platform as you can on Amazon. Some even more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of products that might completely flop on the other platform, regardless of what it's doing on Amazon, or have only 1/10. And so you don't want to go send in a whole bunch of inventory to Fulfill by Walmart or WFS when you're not sure if it's going to take off. So that's like a good thing, like using the MCF. Yeah, it's not amazing 2-day shipping and the WFS badge, but now you set up 50 of your
Mhm.
products, and now you're going to know the three that start taking off
Yeah.
and that have good sales. Well, then obviously that's the three that you want to go ahead and send inventory into WFS without risking having inventory sleeping in the WFS warehouses with a whole bunch of capital tied up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having the ability to build that proof of concept takes away a lot of the barriers. So I agree. I think there's going to be more and more adoption. Plus, Walmart has had their the new seller program that's has some really amazing promotions for people that are migrating to Walmart. Um, so I think they're trying to do a lot of things to try and appeal to more and more sellers and broaden their marketplace.
For
Um,
sure.
do you um, do you find much differences in? I know you mentioned like some products are just completely, disparate between the channels, but do you find many nuances that people should know as far as this is what I generally see on Walmart and how it behaves different than Amazon?
I mean, it goes back to some similar concepts. So, like, Walmart doesn't share things like, search volume. We have like in Helium 10, like a search volume scale. That's how
Mhm.
Walmart wants it. Walmart's kind of
Mhm.
dumb. Like, I think they're kind of jealous about Amazon's numbers, and so they're like, no,
Mhm.
we don't want people knowing the search volume. So they only allow us to do like a scale of 1 to 10 or something. But it's the same thing. It's like, all right, if it could have a high search volume on Amazon, but it could have like a 2 out of 10 on the scale on Walmart. Well, obviously, that item is probably not going to do that well, relatively speaking. Whereas something might be low on Amazon, relatively speaking, but it might be like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on that search volume score. Well,
Mhm.
that's what you go with, and it's not really consistent. Where it's like, oh, this exact category across the board does better on Walmart. I think you see a lot of that on TikTok, where if you're just selling something super basic like screws or screwdrivers or something like that, well, that's probably not going to get viral on TikTok, because the ones that go really well on TikTok are the stuff where you can you can experience it almost through these videos and through these creator videos and through the creatives and virality. Like a video about screws is probably not going to go viral on the platform. So while you might get consistent sales on Amazon for a boring product like that, you pretty much know you're not going to go too crazy on Amazon. Another marketplace that I've been looking into recently, and I'm just going to get set up soon, I didn't mention it yet, is Temu. Now is a great time to start on Temu, because like last year I looked at Temu and coffin shelves. That's just something exactly I was looking at for one of those brands. And I was like, oh my goodness, all these are from China. And they're like priced at $13 with shipping. And my coffin shelf was like $30 with shipping. And there's no way I can compete. But then when the de minimis loophole ended for direct shipments, all of the China-based sellers, or cannot ship from China anymore to US. And so it went from like 60 different coffin shelves for less than half the price of my retail price to now there's like 2 coffin shelves and they're like double my price, because they're probably drop shipping from Amazon or something. And so I think
Mhm.
Temu is a really slept on marketplace, and on there you see a lot of success with like beauty products and products geared towards women, because I was just
Mhm.
talking to the Temu headquarters, and that's what they say. Like a lot of their audience is females, and
Mhm.
and so a lot of the there's certain lines of products that are doing really well on the Temu platform.
Yeah, I think Timu and Sheen are both kind of value oriented, more female based. And if you got a product that's in line, you're right. It's a really valid point. I didn't really think about how much less assortment now you would compete with by launching on those platforms, even though I think their overall steam has slowed because they can't offer as significant a value as they did
Oh
before
yeah,
because of Chinese.
their traffic is
Yeah.
a raindrop compared to what the
Yeah.
flood that it was.
Yeah.
But in actuality, your potential has quadrupled, if not more. Like, even though
Mhm.
they have maybe let's just say they have 1/10 the traffic, you literally have 5x the opportunity that you did last year when they had 10x the traffic, just because the competition is all wiped out, and you have to be US, you have to have US based inventory now to
Mhm.
sell on the platform. And so I would say regardless of the traffic,
Mhm.
an app that millions of people are using.
Yeah.
It's the opportunity is at the highest it's ever been for somebody who's based in the US.
I think it's important that all sellers that go into one of these channels do it comprehensively. I see too many times people just launch on Walmart and they just copy their Amazon catalog onto Walmart, for example. They don't focus on having the fast shipping, they don't focus on reviews, and they don't focus on their listing quality score enough. And then they just give up and say, "Well, it didn't pan out." I actually presented. I know you were in the session for a bit. I presented with Carrie Miller on Walmart at Prosper Show, and
Mm.
she gave us an example of a slide where she showed just one particular item's unit velocity, and when she got the pro seller badge, which you have to have all those kind of metrics in line to get there, her sales basically quadrupled from where she was. And I think a lot of times the sellers just they take the easy road and they check a box. Can I feed this to this marketplace? Maybe they got a feed provider or they got Shopify Marketplace Connect or something, and they're just putting the assortment up there to see what sticks, but they're not actually taking the time to say, okay, algorithmically, how does this marketplace want to see the products? Like you talked about TikTok not having bullet points, Walmart likes very short, succinct bullet points, things like that,
Yeah.
and adapting accordingly so that you're going to have the favor of the algorithm, and then understand where their strengths and weaknesses, and just be okay with the fact that your top seller on Amazon may not be your top seller on Walmart, but you may find this secret, hidden gem that just takes off on Walmart. It's still incremental sales, and you're allowing your brand to be exposed to customers in a variety of sales channels, not just dependent on one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. But again, all I mean, we literally would not have 90% of this conversation if this was like 4 years ago. I mean, there wasn't even a
Yeah,
TikTok shop or Temu then, and Walmart was kind of like okay, but it's like, yeah, we're definitely in a different world these days with e-commerce, in my opinion.
absolutely. I know you just built out a whole bunch of awesome tools on TikTok, or on Helium 10 related to TikTok. One, I wanted to compliment you guys on always kind of listening to your audience, listening to who's your user and what are their challenges, and then putting fixes in place even before they're demanding that of you or asking it. I think you're always kind of proactively figuring out how can you add more value. And I think the TikTok example was a really good example because you're trying to make every step of that process so much easier for people. Do you want to give a little more color into all the different capabilities that you just recently launched?
Yeah, yeah, like you said, these all came from our audience, and like some of them were, people were telling us, man, like I'm selling on TikTok, it's really cool. But first of all, um like I'm flying blind, like I'm just trying to figure out what works. I haven't, I really don't even know too much about TikTok. So the first thing we started developing was a course. So we have now a 17 module course we call it TikTok training. It actually lives within our freedom ticket program. So that's like anybody with any kind of paid Helium 10 membership, even the starter plan, has full access to this, where you can learn the A to
Which
Z.
is
We have
amazing. Yeah.
somebody from TikTok, and then also like a seven
Mhm.
figure TikTok shop seller who did these modules with me, where we train everybody on advertising, to how to set up a TikTok listing, how to get affiliates to promote your product, how to do TikTok lives and stuff like that. And then the next thing that people were saying was, hey, TikTok sounds great. I'm ready to go, but I don't have my own inventory. I don't have to worry about that with Amazon. Like that's why I use FBA. It's like, how am I supposed to sell on TikTok if I don't want to have to send product to Fulfill by TikTok, and I don't even qualify for Fulfill by TikTok? And so that's why we came up with the one click integration, where you can now migrate your Amazon SKUs to your TikTok SKUs, and so that you can have the fulfillment. And then another group of people were like, hey, all right, we're ready to go, got the fulfillment all set up, but I don't want to have to download all of my images from my Amazon listings and figure out what is the best way to make a TikTok listing and then upload it all one by one. Some people have like 50, 100, or even more SKUs. And so the next thing we made was our TikTok listing converter that allows you to just migrate all of your listings from Amazon to TikTok already pre-optimized for it. And then the last thing that we developed, and this is not the last thing total, but the last thing we've developed so far, we're always going to keep innovating,
Mhm.
is I guess people were using software out there that would cost $200, $300, $400 a month, so that you can bulk message a bunch of influencers and bulk, look them up and create your own list. And, because TikTok is very different than Amazon about what success. It's not really about SEO and keyword rank and stuff like that. Like Amazon is,
Mhm.
it's almost so a big part of it is having affiliates and creators post videos. And so we developed a tool that will allow you to search, the hundreds of thousands of TikTok influencers for the ones that might correspond to your niche. Like for the coffin shelves, one of my things I look up is like gothic or goth, or anybody who might be in that kind of niche, and that's who I want to reach out to. And then you can find a couple hundred influencers that hit your niche, and then you can just message all 200 of them with an offer to say, hey, do you want to promote this product at 10% commission? You click this button, and it automatically like even creates the free sample, that again MCF will ship. And so that's like just the beginning of what we have for TikTok shop sellers. And then, yeah, if anybody's listening out there who is selling on TikTok shop, and there's something there that, or something that you need that we haven't developed yet, let us know, and we'll make it happen.
I think it's amazing, and I think that's going to be really explosive for you guys. There are a number of tools that I've found with repetition people don't always understand on Helium 10 because they're part of a premium subscription. So they'll ask us like, "Hey, what do you
Yeah.
think? Should we sign up for this or that?" And the most common one's probably Market 360. Would you want to just explain what it is? How does that differ from what they can get through the normal Helium 10 reporting? And what value does that bring to the table so we can spark interest from people that can really see, they would really utilize it and get value out of it?
Yeah, so the MT360 was kind of like designed for more of our enterprise level sellers. And I'll just tell you right now, like I'm not one of them. Like even at my peak, I was doing like, low seven figures and I didn't feel like I needed it. But it once you get to a certain point, there's no magic number. You're doing like $4 or $5 million, especially if you have a limited number of SKUs where you're a pretty big player. All of a sudden metrics that aren't as important to smaller sellers are important to you, like looking at how you're dominating a certain category or subcategory.
Mhm.
Anybody obviously with using Helium 10, even the free account, can see estimated sales like the Chrome extension gives, but that's just like a SKU by SKU. You might be wondering, hey, how am I doing in the topical pain cream category? Like what's the size of the pie? What's my share of voice? Like what kind of percentage of advertising spots am I taking up and stuff? Like if you're a newer seller, you're selling coffin shelves, you don't need to be wasting your time on
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. You can just use the simple tools and be good to go. But for larger sellers, we have kind of made a set of tools like Market Tracker 360 and our MRS, which is our managed refund services, where we'll go out and try and find money that's owed that our old school refund genie wouldn't do. And so yeah, we definitely have a suite of tools, including our advertising, that's designed for more of the, I guess, sophisticated seller, you can say, who's making mid 7 to 8 figures on Amazon.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that aligns exactly what we tell our clients too. Is if you've got a team that is really going to dive into the analytics and you're going to measure and see how's my share of voice in this category and that search term, and you need the level of insight that you guys can provide, then it's worth it to you because you're able to gain insights that you could use presenting to your board or whatever, because you're being questioned as well, how big is the piece of the pie and how much is this competitor doing, and everything else. Now you've got insights to be able to share. But if you're not going to leverage it to that nth degree, you're probably not ready for that just yet.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that, like Amazon is interesting because there are certain things that it doesn't matter what size of a seller you are. It's exactly the same thing you need to do. If you're Lego,
Mhm.
or if you're somebody who has a $50,000 coffin shelf, per year coffin shelf, a newer seller, um, the way you find keywords for your listing is identical. The way you find PPC targets, product bundling opportunities. It doesn't matter what size of seller you are. There are so many things that are identical what you have to do, and it's actually very few things that, depending on the size of the seller, is different. Like, okay, if I'm a small seller, maybe I couldn't care less about DSP, or in the past, I couldn't even do AMC or advanced things like that only bigger
Mhm.
sellers would be worried about, or sponsored TV. But so it's important to understand that do the basics are pretty much the same regardless of what you are, but based on what level of seller you are, know what you need to do that's different than, from when you were, not making as much sales volume, and that's what's going to keep you ahead of the competition.
Absolutely. Um, with all these AI tools out there, there's always the uh, concern from sellers is, do I do I change my tactics for SEO and product page optimization on Amazon to to be more attractive to these new AI engines? Do I keep it kind of the way I have been doing it, which is just based on keywords and volume and all that stuff, or is there a blend in between? What's your take on that?
About like how much AI to use, or
Not how to optimize your content so you're attractive to the customer that's searching for the old school terms like men's shoes, white, size 10, and then also the customer that searches for shoes for ideal for running that are breathable and waterproof, you know, things like that.
yeah. In general, this topic is, I think, related to, the people out there who say search has completely changed because of different AI things that are coming, and semantic search, and hey, Rufus and Cosmo, or different, buzzwords like that. And what I've been actually preaching lately is no, search has not fundamentally changed in the last 1 or 2 years. We have history, like a history of even 3, 4, 5 years ago, before there was a such thing as Rufus, Cosmo, or any of these other things, where,
Mhm.
yeah, like Amazon will know over time and index you for search terms that you might not even have in your listing, because it learns how people are interacting. One
Yeah.
example I give lately when I'm on the speaker circuit is if you type in winter coat on Amazon, the number one thing that shows up, like it has a bestseller badge, or Amazon's Choice or something. It's actually an Amazon Basics product. It does not have the word winter in it anywhere,
Mhm.
but it's literally page one, position one for the word winter coat, and gets lots of sales from it. And if you look back, is this because of some new AI, or some new algorithm shift for semantic search? No, it has been indexed for the word winter coat since January of 2020, before any of this AI stuff comes out. So,
Mhm.
but the thing is, the listing itself didn't get started until 2019. And there's plenty of other examples, about how, you know, if you type in a certain use case, listings will come up, even though maybe that exact use case. I think Amazon or somebody else had the example of like a shoes for pregnant women or something like that, right? Where
Mhm.
even if the word pregnant's not in the listing, but if Amazon will know that, hey, a lot of pregnant ladies like this kind of shoe, it'll put it at the search results. But the reason why I tell everybody to have pause, and say, no, I need to drop everything, and optimize my listings only for Rufus or only for Cosmo or stuff, is, what does this knowledge mean? It means literally zilch, in my opinion, maybe exaggeration. But the reason is if you know somebody searches a certain keyword in order to find your product, um, why wouldn't you want to be indexed and searchable on that from day one? And
Sure.
how do you do that? You put the keyword in your listing.
Yeah.
If it's a winter coat, you put the word winter in your listing, so the day one you are searchable for winter. You don't want to wait 1 year for Amazon to figure out, because of buyer behavior, that your product is interesting for winter. Same thing for, if pregnant people like your shoe, you put pregnant. Hey, great for pregnant ladies, in your listing.
Mhm.
You don't want to
Mhm.
wait even one. Why wait even 1 week for the AI to figure out? And so that's why I keep telling everybody, is like, yes, search is always changing on Amazon. It's nothing new. It's not just because of this new AI stuff. It's been happening, for 5+ years. But that doesn't fundamentally change the way you should do keyword research, the way you optimize your listings. If anything, the thing that this changes is, as Amazon gets even better at predicting stuff, I bet you it wouldn't have taken 1 year to get indexed for winter, with a product this year. But what's happening now is, some of the people that maybe don't use Helium 10, or don't know how to make a great listing, they'll still get indexed for a lot of the stuff, even though they never even found that keyword. So, but again, how does that
Mhm.
affect you, the professional seller, the good seller who's trying to do all that they can? That's what's important. So, like, yes, we live in a ever-changing world that's being influenced by AI and Amazon's shifting algorithms, but the
Mhm.
fundamentals of how you find keywords for your listing, getting indexed for them, ranking for it, this has not changed, despite sensationalized posts that somebody might read on LinkedIn or something.
Yeah, my thought is that the attributes and all the data that these engines will need to scour are really important because let's say someone searches for, you know, um, shoes for pregnant women or something, and this AI tool is now saying, okay, I understand the need here, and I understand what the concepts that would be ideal for this. Now let me look at the attributes and hand curate the ones that are well suited for that. They're not looking at a dumb phrase and just saying, let's say, um, uh, you know, whatever Rufus would have, right? Like, shoes for pregnant women or whatever. And you don't have to emulate that in your listing just to be attractive to the Rufus inquiry. It's smarter than that, but it does need to have all these attributes, and images are a lot more important these days too, because it's helping the algorithms understand perspective. So you can have images that are showing your product on the beach, and it's actually uncovering that, oh, this is relevant for the beach because the product's shown in an image on the
Yeah.
beach.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like now AI and Rufus and things can read the images, but again, what does that change? Nothing.
Mhm.
Like if it was
Yeah,
so important
exactly.
that you should put it in your image, which there absolutely is, like you should be just like not mindlessly doing your images. But if
Yeah.
something, like you only got 7, 8 images, but if something was so important to you that you were like, hey, I got to make a lifestyle image about it, of course it's already going to be in your listing.
Yeah.
Like would you have something that's in the image but not talked about in your listing? And so like
Mhm.
like so the way people teach is like, oh yeah, you can be indexed and searchable for stuff that's in your images. Great. What does that change? Nothing. If it was important for it to be an image, it's important enough to be in a bullet point already. So like it's not like you're getting
Exactly.
indexed for more things. So we all have to be mindful of the changes that AI is making, but we got to take off the blinders sometimes and understand that the fundamentals has not changed, and there's people out there who might be saying things in ways that are kind of sensationalized because we live in a LinkedIn viral world where people want to say like controversial things or things that'll get interactions,
Mhm. Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't want to like try and throw shade, but
Mhm.
what's happening is that people don't understand that and they take things at face value, and they don't understand that these are just like, like, hey, we're trying to we're trying to, build some traffic here for this LinkedIn post that'll get some interaction. But now all of a sudden they take that and they make it seem like, oh my goodness, the entire world of Amazon SEO has changed, but that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the fundamentals are exactly the same. And you should have been doing all these things before.
Yep.
Now AI is making some of these things more clear. Like, we had a client that used an AI tool to generate some images recently, and the AI tool misinterpreted what the product was based on the product description and the imagery that was already there, thinking it actually did something a little different. And I think that is really, really helpful to use these AI tools to say, analyze my images, tell me what this is, look at my copywriting, tell me who is this applicable for, et cetera,
Yep.
and make
Yep.
sure that these AI tools are crawling and understanding your product really well, because it could be as simple as an image is sending a confusing message to the AI on what the product is, or some of the keywords you're using may be confusing it, that they think it's maybe appealing to broader audiences than it is, or something like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think that's the key for AI and how it's changed Amazon. It's not necessarily how the experience has changed, but it's more like, hey, what are some stuff that we can automate,
Yeah.
or not, maybe we don't have to always pay $800 for a photo shoot, but we can use AI to like generate some lifestyle images that maybe we had to have a professional photographer for in the past, or maybe instead of having to just like read 1,000 reviews, I could use AI to kind of like, summarize things for
Yeah.
me. And so that's what people need to be, like focusing on, how it can help save time and do stuff that you humanly couldn't accomplish in a reasonable amount of time back in the
Mhm.
day, as opposed to trying to think that, oh, AI has changed the entire way we should be, making our listings.
Yeah, totally agree. I know a common practice has been for sellers to put all caps with a benefit in the beginning of each bullet point, and then kind of the feature that goes along with it. And now Amazon's terms of service specifically talks about all caps being against their terms of service. What are your thoughts on that? if you're using it only in a couple of words to draw attention to a key feature, is that a problem? Would you advise against it, or is it? Are you generally seeing that it is effective and it's not being penalized by Amazon thus far? So why remove it?
Um, yeah, so that's like there are certain things that Amazon is black and white changed. Like, for example, what was it? Like, a couple months ago, hey, don't have a word 3 times in the title or something like that,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
which
no more than two.
like you shouldn't
Mhm.
have done that in the first place, but now it's like codified, that you can't do it. And the AI or their AI uh bot checkers are probably checking, for that. Other
Mhm.
stuff, was maybe kind of gray, like is it best practice? Maybe, but then was it frowned upon by Amazon? But I think things like, like emojis and bullet points and all caps, I'm almost positive that those things became stuff that Amazon recommends against.
Mhm.
But I have not heard of like, people getting their listing suspended or suppressed because of it. But just the fact that
Mhm.
Amazon now says that you shouldn't do all caps and shouldn't do emojis and stuff like that, that's enough for me. Like, yeah, why not? Well, like, why risk having,
Yeah,
like
not
having
worth it.
them? But again,
Yeah.
somebody smarter than me might have the complete opposite viewpoint, and say, "Hey, just do it. If I've noticed that it gives me better conversion, I'll just do it until Amazon does suppress me and just change it at that time." And hey, I can understand that argument. Um, Too is it's kind of like the argument about your main image, how it's almost always supposed to be white background, but at very worst, you'll get your listing suppressed for just a couple hours, and then you just change your image later. So should you try and go into that gray area with your main image and do some stuff that Amazon frowns against just because the penalty is not that high for it? Yeah, argument can be made both ways for some of that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's definitely a gray area, and some sellers will tend to use an A/B experiment for implementing those and letting
Yeah,
Amazon
yeah,
choose the best item, and then you've got a little bit of a backing that it was chosen based on actual data, but
yep,
nonetheless, it's probably best to abide by the rules, but measure and understand risk versus reward, right?
for sure.
Switching to a personal note, and then we'll probably wrap. I understand you had a health emergency a while back, and I remember hearing about it. I thought it was very inspirational. And if you don't mind, maybe sharing with the audience what that was and what lessons people could learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, if we consider dying a health emergency, basically would happen for like 15 minutes. But yeah, at a
Mhm,
relatively early age, like I'm not as young as some people think, but still, I'm not at the age in my 40s where you would think that, hey, it's quote unquote normal to have a heart attack. But
mhm,
yeah, that's basically what happened. Probably like 99% chance I should not have lived because of the circumstance. I just happened to be at home, happen to have spouse who is certified for CPR, and it was like a perfect scenario. But literally, like maybe less than 1% survival rate under almost any circumstance,
mhm,
um, if it wasn't so perfect. And so it's something I think, like I have different themes that I talk about when I go on stage for a year. Like I always do different I never do the same presentation like twice, but then I have like a general theme, and like my theme the last year has been about focusing on the customer. But then like 2 years ago, it was, one of my persisting themes was about watching your health as entrepreneurs, because I think that first of all, as entrepreneurs, especially if you're not working in a place, like you end up sitting at your desk for like 12, 14 hours a day, not sleeping great, not exercising, and not eating, like or eating out all the time and stuff like that. And
mhm,
I think entrepreneurs are more at risk for the kind of issues that come up health wise based on that kind of lifestyle. And at the same time, I was like, hey, I have a platform out there, and a lot of people know me. And I think sometimes it's when you know somebody who something has happened, it makes it a lot more real. So that's why I really
yep,
wanted to kind of like focus on it a couple of years ago and say, hey,
mhm.
you guys know me. Like, not all of us know somebody who had such a health scare, but I was like, hey, people know me. Like maybe it can make it a little bit more real for people about, hey, like there's no, I mean, you could eat perfectly. I could eat fruits and vegetables and 1,600 calories a day, and I could work out and run 10 miles every morning or something, and I'd still, like you could still get a heart attack, or
Sure.
some kind of thing. But guess what? If you are doing those things, the chances of that happening are a lot less. And so that's kind of like my message out there is that I try and give when this topic comes up is don't think you're too young,
Mhm.
for something to happen. Don't think you're immune to having to watch your health, and you'll be fine. If anything, entrepreneurs need to be even more mindful of their health than others, just because of the lifestyle we sometimes live with, the stress and the hours that we work, and the uh, having what's the
Yeah.
word, sedentary lifestyle that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, like you said, you're blessed to have had a wife that knows CPR. And I think, unfortunately, like myself, I'm certified in CPR and I know how to do it, but not all my family members are probably as astute, even though I've
We
trained
are
them.
now. All four of us in this house all got certified after after that, just in
I
case.
bet. I bet. Did you end up buying an AED or doing
Yep,
anything
yep,
else like that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You didn't have one before that. That was what got me back. Like for 15 minutes, like I said, I was dead. But then when the paramedics finally came, I don't know why it took them so long. That they used that was what revived me.
Yeah.
Was a defibrillator, and so it's like it's not cheap, but hey, you can't put a price in your life. So like you paid the $1,000 and got an AED. It's sitting there in my living room now.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful. Be prepared, train, don't give up. Like I bet 15 minutes of waiting, there's probably a lot of people, if your wife wasn't so determined, that would have given up hope. And the
Sure.
reality is what she did caused your blood to keep pumping and keeping
Yep.
your brain alive because of the oxygen that was already remaining in your blood. And you survived 100% because of her actions. And that is
Absolutely.
exhausting. I mean, that's hard
Oh
for
yeah.
anybody to do for 15 minutes.
Yep. Yep. It's not
So,
like all fun and games like the one Office episode with the staying alive scene that everybody knows about. Nope.
exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Bradley. This was amazing. Why don't you tell people how they can reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yeah. So best way, the place I'm active on, LinkedIn, also my Instagram, Serious Sellers Podcast is what the Instagram is under. Definitely, subscribe to the podcast as well. And then whenever I come on a podcast, I always try and give a code. I don't even give out on my own, but SSP40. If anybody wants to try out Helium 10, you can actually save 40%. Use SSP40. You'll only hear that when I'm on other podcasts. Probably only giving that out like 5 or 6 times. So take advantage of that
Awesome.
code. But otherwise, reach out to me on those on social media, and be great to connect with some of you.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much.
See you later.